AP students, this is a just quick video that addresses the practice problems that I chose to focus upon on during the first period of our double period on March 2nd. So, I want to make sure that we understand first and foremost what makes something a buffer. And what makes something a buffer is the ingredients. A buffer has a decent amount. And by decent amount, we mean more than 10 to the negative third molar, 10 to the negative eighth molar of a weak acid and its conjugate base. And we realize that these share the equilibrium reaction that in the case of, if we're calling the weak acid our reactant, we would call this an acidic buffer. So we have, a good amount, maybe, 0.05 molar, 0.1 molar, 1.5 molar of the weak acid. And then ideally we have the same quantity of its conjugate base or weak base. And we know that ammonia is what we're expected to be able to recognize is a weak base. And then its conjugate acid. All right, so that's what we have to understand is inside of our beaker. And so it's weak acid and a good amount of conjugate base so that when a strong invader of hydrogen ion from the complete ionization of one of our strong acids, which we really know is hydronium, or hydroxide from one of our strong bases, enters. This is an equilibrium. And so we have to understand what steps forward to react the strong invader away. So want to make sure that, we can recognize when something has the ability to be a buffer, but it's really not a buffer until the strong invader comes in. All right. So period 3 and period 9, we did different problems. On page 23, this is definitely one to do. I apologize that I did not include the KB within the problem. You would definitely be given that. So we first investigate the pH of just what would be a common ion situation. So if you want to pause, go ahead and generate your work. Now in period 3, we did start to set this up. Okay, these are our final answers. So even if you want to, just solve this problem and then check to make sure you're getting those answers. So this is the pH before the strong invader and after the strong invader. That's what we have. But you see, not much change. So the buffer did a good job. So this would be the work for pre-strong invader. And then you're adding hydronium. We know when we make water, it's a full arrow, so we don't have to question how much is reacting. We know based upon the limiting reactant. So ICF, which is moles. But then we have to revisit the equilibrium. You're adding volumes. So be careful that when you calculate the molarity, you're doing it correctly. And then we do the ice table investigation. Also be careful whenever the X value that you're finding, is it hydroxide or is it the hydrogen ion? You don't want to, it's so easy to confuse them. So here, of course, it's hydroxide. So I chose to get POH, but you could, of course, use the equation of hydrogen ion times hydroxide equals Kw, or 1 times 10 to the minus 14th to get hydrogen ion and then get your pH. Okay, so we work through this problem. Now I want to show you my work and answers for the other problems in the packet in case you'd like to give some of those a try. So I know we did this one together. This is the first problem. If you want to look at my work at all. All right. Now we're going to talk about making a buffer together, but here's just my approach to this problem. All right, then another buffer problem, and you would be given the KB. And the volume of the buffer solution, or the solution is not acting as a buffer, we're going to say 1 liter. My work and answers, and for the second part. All right. So I showed this at the beginning. Again, we will talk through making buffers, and the last page we're not even going to consider, but I'll just go ahead and show. And you could approach this a couple different ways, but we just want to make sure that we're moving forward soundly and getting the correct answer. Okay, so we definitely want to make sure that we can do this adding volumes, kind of a buffer problem. And in your packet, that is the one that we find on page 23. So we want to make sure that we can tackle this kind of a problem. What else we did dealing with buffers was tackled a couple multiple choice. Let me just find those. And so it's, I thought this was your prep. It is. I'm just making videos for all those students that were at the mock exam. I apologize for the interruption. If you take a look at these questions, and I have the correct letter choices on the right. And so if you want to choose what the best answer would be. And there's our answers. Okay. We also definitely, answered some individual student questions. There was a student in the 3rd period class that asked a unit assignment question. So definitely make sure you can do that problem on page 23 and send any questions or concerns my way regarding buffers. Thank you.